Hello, my name is Aiman Haikal bin Suhaimi. My metric number is 280458 and I will briefly explain on activity-based costing. Activity-based costing is a method to identify activity in a firm and the expenses are assigned precisely to each activity with resources to all products and services based on the real consumption by each. This method allocates more overhead costs into direct expenses compared with conventional method. ABC method is normally used for costing as well as monitoring different activities which involve in tracing resource consumption. Resource in this method are categorized into different activities, and activities are divided into various cost objects according to consumption estimates. The implementation of ABC method helps identify and remove products and services which are unprofitable and possibly adjust the prices of the products and services which are overpriced. It also helps detect and get rid of production and services processes which are ineffective and assign processing concepts that lead to a better yield. Activity-based costing is best explained by walking through its various steps. They are identify costs. The first step in ABC is to identify those costs that we want to allocate. This is the most critical step in the entire process since we do not want to waste time in excessively broad project scope. Next, load secondary cost pools. Create cost pool for those costs incurred to provide services to other parts of the company, rather than directly supporting a company products or services. Next, load primary cost pools. Create a set of cost pools for those costs more closely aligned with the products of goods or services. It is very common to have separate cost pool for each product line since costs tend to occur at this level. Such costs can include research and development, advertising, procurement, and distribution. Similarly, you might considering creating cost pools or for each distribution channel or for each facility. Next, measure activity drivers. Use a data collection system to collect information about activity drivers that are used to allocate the cost in secondary cost pools to primary cost pools, as well as to allocate these costs in primary cost pools to cost objects. It can be expensive to accumulate activity driver information, so use activity drivers for which information is already being collected where possible. And the next one is to allocate costs in secondary pools to primary pools. Use activity drivers to apportion the costs in the secondary cost pools to the primary cost pools. Next, charge cost to cost objects. Use an activity driver to allocate the content of each primary cost pools to cost objects. There will be a separate activity driver for each cost pools. To allocate this cost, divide the total cost in each cost pool by the total amount of activity in the activity driver. To establish the cost per unit of activity, then allocate the cost per unit to the cost objects based on their use of the activity driver. And next, formulate reports. Convert the result of ABC system into report for management consumption. For example, if the system was originally designed to accumulate overhead information by geographical sales region, then report on revenues earned in each region, all direct costs and the overhead derived from ABC system. This gave management a full cost view of the result generated by each region. Lastly, act on the information. The most common management reaction to an ABC report is to reduce the quantity of activity drivers used by each cost object. Doing so should reduce the amount of overhead costs being used. We have now arrived at a complete ABC allocation of overhead cost to cost objects that deserve to be charged with overhead costs. By doing so, managers can see which activity drivers need to be reduced in order to shrink a corresponding amount of overhead cost. For example, if the cost of a single purchase order is 100 ringgit, managers can focus on letting the production system automatically place purchase orders, or on using procurement card as a way to avoid purchase orders. If the solution results in fewer purchase orders and therefore lower purchasing departmental costs. And next, I will pass to my friend Adriana.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nurdiyana Afriena, Binti Ahmad Khairi. My metric number is 280860. So I'm gonna proceed to how activity-based costing is used under ABC system. First, it's used as activity cost. Basically, ABC is designed to track the cost of activity, so you can use it to see if activity costs are in line with the industry standard or not. Next, ABC is excellent feedback tool for measuring the ongoing cost of specific services as management focus on cost reduction. Secondly, customer profitability. As we know, most of costs incurred for individual customers simply product cost. So ABC system can help you to determine which customer are actually earning you a reasonable profit. This analysis may result in some unprofitable customer being turned away. Thirdly, distribution cost. So typically, company use a variety of distribution channel to sell the product, such as retail, internet, distributors, and mail order catalog. Most of structural cost of maintaining a distribution channel is overhead. So you can make decision to alter how distribution channel are used or even to drop unprofitable channels. After that, it used to make or buy. ABC provide a comprehensive view of every cost associated with the manufacture of a product, so that you can see precisely which cost will be eliminated if an item is outsourced versus which cost will remain. ABC system can determine the margins of various product line and entire subsidiaries if company have proper overhead. This can be quite useful for determine where to position company's resources to earn the largest margin. In addition, minimum price. ABC is very good for determining which overhead cost should include in minimum cost. Depends on circumstances under which product are being sold. That's why product prices is really important based on market price. But marketing manager should know what the cost of product is in order to avoid selling a product that will company lose on every sale. Lastly, use as production facility cost. Usually, quite easy to segregate overhead costs at plant-wide level. So it's easy to compare the cost of production between different facilities. Overall, clearly, there are many valuable uses for the information provided by an ABC system. However, this information will only be available if the system designed to provide the specific set of data needed for each decision. So that's all for activity-based costing system is used. Thank you. Next, I will move to the problem with ABC or activity-based costing system. As we know, many company initiates ABC project with the best of intention, but there are several issues, which is, first, cost pool volume. The advantage of an ABC system is the high quality of information that is produced, but this comes at the cost of using a large number of cost pool. This indicates greater the cost of managing the system. To reduce this cost, companies should run an ongoing analysis of the cost in order to maintain each cost pool in comparison to the utility of the resulting information. Second, installation time. ABC systems are difficult to install. When a company attempts to install for all product lines and facilities, somehow it's difficult to maintain a high level of management and budgetary support as the month roll by without the installation being completed. Next problem is project basis. Many ABC projects are authorized on the project basis, so that information is only collected once. The information is useful for a company current operational situation, and it's gradually decline in usefulness as the operational structure change over time. So to solve this issue, build as much as ABC data collection structure into the existing accounting system so that the cost of this project is reduced at the lowest cost and ABC projects will be authorized in the future. So last problems in my slide is multi-department data resources. The larger number of the departments involved in the system, the larger the risk that data input will fail over time. This problem can be avoided by designing the system to only need information from the most supportive manager. So that's all 7 years and 4 issues activity-based costing from me. So thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Miza, Nurdiyana, metric number 275714. Now let us proceed to traditional costing. Traditional costing is the allocation of factory overhead to product based on the volume of production resources consumed. Under this method, overhead is usually applied based on either the amount of direct labor hours consumed or machine hour used. Traditional costing systems are less expensive to develop, but they can cause significant product costing error. Management decisions on product range, pricing, cost control, and other factors based on misleading cost figure can lead to huge long-term losses. Under the traditional cost accounting system, the distribution factor for indirect costs always include direct man-hour, and while this distribution approach historically had a beneficial effect, it is now difficult to distribute due to the increased product variety and high costs. The information of traditional costing is insufficient to characterize the demand imposed on overhead resources by product or services. Under the traditional method of allocating overhead based on direct labor costs, the total cost for all balls will be divided by total direct labor cost for all balls to determine the per unit cost. Let me explain the advantage of traditional costing. Firstly, it is best used when an organization has low overhead costs compared to the direct production costs they pay. When volumes are large and overhead costs don't create a significant difference when calculating costs, then it provides an accurate figure that can then be added as a rate to the finished good or services. Secondly, if you are trying to determine what goods or services offer the best profit ratio for an organization, outsider will prefer to use the traditional costing system. The report generated by this calculation are often easier to read and understand because it puts everything into a ringgit and cent category. For investor, employee, or other interested party, the traditional costing system makes it possible to understand some of the basics of a company financial picture. Activity-based costing cannot be accurately used for external report because of the multiple activity rates involved. Thirdly, traditional costing might not offer the specificity of activity-based costing, but it still offers the ability to trace direct costs. Anything that is related to a specific product, including direct labor and material, is included with this information. It follows GAAP principle to offer a reasonably analysis of production costs. When an organization is producing a handful of products or services to their targeted demographic. Fourth, the reason why the traditional costing system was developed in the first place was that it could quickly accommodate the high cost of machine or human labor into the finished product being offered. Instead of incorporating multiple costs that must be calculated to determine an outcome, the system utilized one rate for overhead allocation which applied to the entire business operation. That means your accounting department only needs to run one set of books, unlike activity-based costing which must run two sets of books. Finally, if a company uses an activity costing system, then their workers are forced to take the time to assign costs each day. The accounting department will spend several hours per week assigning costs to the various products or services offered. Imagine having 15 cost activity call pool with rate that must be assigned to 200 different products. With the traditional costing method, you might use estimate more often, but there are fewer cost assignment procedures which must be completed. Next, I will pass to Ms. Awaluddin to deliver the disadvantage of traditional costing.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Miza Binti Awaluddin. My metric number is 275820. I will continue to present about traditional costing. Disadvantages of traditional costing. Firstly, the disadvantages of traditional costing is it offers limited accuracy even in the best of situations. Traditional costing may work when there are a handful of products being manufactured with low overhead costs. It does not offer the same accuracy when trying to look at the actual expenses that are incurred by an organization. It tends to distort the actual expense, looking at the profitability of products or services by arbitrarily assigning costs for all activities instead of considering the cost of each action required to bring the product to sale. Next, the disadvantages of traditional costing is ignore unexpected circumstances. Any unanticipated expenses are ignored when the traditional costing system is used. That is because the overall average is factored into the product. It may cost an organization more to manufacture goods or provide service after the first projections are made, and there is no way for this accounting system to take that into account. Next, not always a helpful system. The traditional costing system does not show enough specifics to identify where waste might be occurring within the system. The indirect costs of manufacturing products or providing service are not accounted for under this system. It only looks at the overhead costs in general, ignoring the specific for the overall number. For that reason, some organizations prefer to use activity-based costing if they suspect that there are cost-cutting measures that could be implemented. For the fourth disadvantages of traditional costing is its simplicity may be too simple. The modern business must analyze non-manufacturing costs as part of their overall accounting process. It must evaluate the vast variety of expenses that are associated with an offer of numerous products or services. The overall lack of data is limiting to organizations which offer numerous items for sale. They cannot receive the information from the traditional costing system, although these calculations are easy and the information is easy to convey to the others. Lastly, traditional costing is not account for non-manufacturing costs. At the cost of producing goods or service, there are numerous costs which must be paid that do not apply to the production cycle. It wouldn't look at marketing, sales, or outreach costs because those occur after the manufacturing process. If those costs are high, then the system might indicate profitability for a company when none exists. A failure to analyze non-manufacturing costs is one of its greatest weaknesses. Next, formula of traditional costing. Step 1. Calculate predetermined overhead rate by dividing the total overhead cost by total direct labor. Step 2. Allocate overhead to each type of product by multiplying the overhead cost per direct labor and per unit direct labor. As a conclusion, the traditional costing determines the cost allocation using direct labor costs only. So, a product with high direct labor costs gets allocated more of the overhead costs than a product with low direct labor costs. The number of orders, setups, or tests the product actually uses does not impact the allocation of overhead costs when direct labor costs are used to allocate overhead.
Hi, my name is Sofienaz Binti Abdul Halim, metric number 280543. I will talk about the differences between activity-based costing and traditional costing. There are many bases of differences between them. First of all, traditional costing is the allocations of factory overhead to product based on the volume of production resources consumed. Meanwhile, the ABC or activity-based costing is a costing system which focuses on activity performed to produce product. Allocation basis in traditional system and ABC system is different. Traditional system allocate costs to product using volume-based allocation basis, such as units, direct labor input, and machine hour.
And for ABC system, it allocates cost to products, service and other cost objects from the activity cost product using allocation basis, corresponding to the cost driver of activity cost. Next, decision support. In traditional costing, there is no ability to align allocation basis with the cost driver. This will lead to problem over casting and other casting of costs. Meanwhile, ABC system provides more accurate information to support managerial decision because of the ability to align allocation basis with the cost driver. After that, cost objects. Traditional costing focuses on estimating the cost of a single cost object. In example, unit of product or service. ABC focuses on estimating the cost of many cost objects of interest such as units, batches, product line, or customers and suppliers. Other than that, costs in using this system are also different. Traditional costing system is relatively less expensive or even much cheaper than the ABC costing to implement and maintain. Meanwhile, ABC costing is much more expensive to implement and maintain. Lastly, overhead rates. Overhead rates in traditional system can be used to ascertain cost of product only. Meanwhile, for ABC system, activity cost driver rates can be used to ascertain cost of products and also the other cost objects such as customer segment and distribution channel. There are pros and cons to both traditional system and ABC system. One advantage of ABC system is it is provide more accurate information on the cost to manufacture products, but it does not show up on the financial statement. Traditional allocations assigns overhead based on a single overhead rate, while ABC assigns overhead based on several cost pools and the activity that drive costs. In conclusion, changing from traditional system to ABC system is not as simple as management needs to educate the employees to follow the new system. There are often challenges that begin in convincing employees to bring into the new system that will provide more benefits and more accurately information.